Welcome into Let's Bet It here on Pickswise. I am Mark Zinno, joined by a very happy and a little bit heavier in the wallet, Jared Smith from Las Vegas and the NFL Draft. We'll get to Jared here as he pumps his fist in just a moment. Want to remind you guys to make sure you subscribe to Pickswise on YouTube as well. Download the YouTube app. It is free, available at the Apple Store and Google Play. We've got NFL Draft recap to get to. We'll get to some NBA action with Brian Scalabrine. Better up, of course, our Major League Baseball segment and our plays of the day. But plays of the day yesterday was all Jared Smith as he cashed several tickets out of the draft in Las Vegas. And I assume you're going to be quite insufferable about this, but I will allow you to enjoy your moment because it's not often nights like this come along for people.
No. And I thought last year 20 units in one night. It stretched into the second day, but one draft, one event. I thought that was like my ceiling for, just being able to understand, digest, bet this event. Last night, right back to the well, 20 units again. The column was on Pickswise since Tuesday evening. So no excuses why our friends out there in Pickswise Nation didn't get involved with this one. It was, and listen, I know this sounds like super cocky, but this is the most beatable event of the calendar, the entire sports calendar, period, because it's not driven by the bounce of the ball. It's driven by the information that slips through the tea leaves and the grapevine. And I think us collectively as a group did a really good job. You get a congratulatory pat on the back, too. It was close with our mock draft, but you hit the 10th pick with the Jets getting Garrett Wilson, and then you really cashed the winner on, the tiebreaker, the fact that our draft, mock draft came down to the wire, came down to the tiebreaker. It was a pretty close race there, Mark, but you did take it in the end.
It was. I mean, you and I had the top three picks the same, and we both were kind of going counterculture when we put this in before all the Derek Stingley news came out. You and I were a little bit ahead of the curve there, thinking he would go number 3. But I'm not even most proud of that. What I am most proud of is it was less than a week ago where you told me that's the worst take I ever had, and then I promised you that Drake London was going to be the number 1 overall wide receiver selected. That's the one that I want to gloat about.
No, it was the 5.5 wide receivers that was your worst take.
I know,
that was your worst take because it went over.
That was terrible. It went over 6.5. I was way off on that one. We're not talking about that one, though. We're talking about Drake London because my retort to you after that worst take, I said, if you think that's bad, I'm telling you, Drake London is going to be the first wide receiver taken. So, and he was. Look, there were a lot of things last night in the draft, I think, that were surprising. I mean, I can't remember how many. It was impossible to keep up with how many trades were going on. That was unreal. It was incredible. 9. Back and forth. But we said that, Jared, with 3 teams in the top 10 having multiple picks, 6 teams having multiple picks throughout the entire first round, you knew people were going to be moving. But not only that, we not only saw draft day trades, we saw players traded on draft day. A.J. Brown goes to the Philadelphia Eagles and signs a huge $100 million extension. Hollywood Brown or Marquise Brown or Sacramento Brown or whatever you want to call him is now part of the Arizona Cardinals. He's Flagstaff Brown, as my friend Brown. Nick Costas always likes to call him. Yeah, Tucson Brown, Mesa Brown. Give all the credit to Nick Costas for the making fun of Hollywood's nicknames because he's not very Hollywood. But nonetheless, he's out of Baltimore. And so, all of that happened last night, and it was a flurry. So your winners and your losers from last night, Jared.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you mentioned the trades. If you want to talk about the teams that did the best wheeling and dealing, the Eagles are on that list for sure. But listen, I'm going to stick to my guns with my New York roots here. I really think both New York teams absolutely crushed this first round. Now, it's easy to win the first round when you have 2 picks in the top 10. All you have to do is not screw it up. And I think the Jets did a good job of not screwing it up. Sauce Gardner was kind of their guy all along. We were hearing rumblings a little bit because of the Mekhi Becton news that maybe they would go tackle in that spot. But I think they took perhaps the best corner in the draft, even though he wasn't the first corner taken. Maybe when it's all said and done, he will be the best corner in the draft. And then the Giants, Kayvon Thibodeau was supposed to be the number 1 pick during the pre-draft process. He was, exactly. He was kind of booked as that. And then we heard some of the rumblings about his character and some of the off-the-field concerns. And then, of course, the other defensive lineman really shot up during the draft process. And so Kayvon slips to 5. And listen, this guy could be the next coming of like a Justin Tuck, Michael Strahan type of defensive end if they can get that motor running. And the fact that he's in New York, he's in a big market, maybe that will help. And then at 7, they took the offensive lineman that I think they coveted all along, which was Evan Neal, who's going to slide into that right tackle spot on day 1 on the other side of Andrew Thomas. So you're talking about a bookend defensive end and a bookend right tackle starters for the Giants. The Jets got 3 starters in this draft. Obviously the top 2 guys were, locks with Garrett Wilson. We thought they'd go receiver at 10. They did. Gardner, we just talked about, but then they move up late in the first round and they take Jermaine Johnson, who was booked as a top 10 pick. He was under 9.5 to the juice up until, the last second. And then all of a sudden he slips to 26. I really think the Jets had a really good draft. And I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised based off of some personal pains in the past with the Jets, but very impressive night for both New York teams, I think.
Yeah, Dave Gettleman would have taken Chris Olave and Trent McDuffie and screwed the whole thing up for different conversations. So I'm glad to see that there's new leadership running my beloved New York Giants. But I agree. I think both New York teams had a really, really good night. The other team to me that had a fantastic night was the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, Eric DeCosta, the GM of the Ravens, makes it look so easy. All he did in the middle of the first round was snag the best safety on the board and the best center on the board. I mean, it's by considerable margins, right? Like it wasn't close, and he had to do some wheeling and dealing again. And he sends off Marquise Brown, which probably is the best thing because Marquise Brown ain't that good. He drops a ton of passes, and clearly, whatever him and Lamar Jackson had, it wasn't enough to put them over the top. And I think the Ravens are smart enough to know what they can do. Wouldn't be surprised to see them be in on the sweepstakes for Debo, or even maybe pick up a Odell Beckham Jr. When he recovers from his knee injury along the lines later on in the offseason. But, it's one of those things where the Ravens just draft so soundly every single year. It's quiet, it's reserved, it's not flashy, but whatever they do, it always works. The team that I thought
Here's the question that I have, Mark. I have a follow-up for you on the Ravens. Mm-hmm. Like, you see Lamar Jackson's tweet last night, like WTF. Does that concern you at all that they traded away
he is
a guy that
clearly
is very
messing with everybody on social media? Like, I don't know why people don't realize
that's fair.
And I know this because I covered the Ravens for a decade, and I know the inner workings of that building. If there was real consternation about it, it would be more of a bigger deal to the Baltimore media, and they would be echoing it, and John Harbaugh would be addressed. It's not. I'm telling you, I'm 90% sure he is just playing with people, and he's already told the organization, don't just ignore what I do on Twitter on draft night. I'm just
social media. You really never know. Sometimes it's serious, like when these guys take their Instagram photos down and basically like break up with the team. But you're right. A lot of other times, and it's kind of funny because we're about to talk about Malik Willis. He also kind of trolled himself last night on social media. So it depends on the personality of each player. I agree. And I don't know Lamar and the Ravens that well, other than the fact that they are a very well-run organization. So I wouldn't be surprised if you were right. But that, anytime that the quarterback who is still, getting paid a lot of money, chimes in, you always pay attention.
Right? But that's the real thing. He isn't getting paid a lot of money yet. He's trying to get a contract.
Not yet, but I think he will.
If he's trying to get a contract, yes, I think he will too. But if he's trying to do it, sticking your thumbs in the eyes of the organization when they have the franchise tag over you is not a smart move financially at that point in time. So I lean on the fact that Lamar Jackson is kind of just messing around with people. And the WTF, he will tell you, could have went to a lot of things. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about a bunch of other things. Is it how many trades are being?
I had some bad sushi last night or something.
Right. He left himself some plausible deniability on his way out. So he was smart about it. That's why I think he's messing around. Anyway, the one team I thought that really whiffed was the Falcons. They need so much interior help on the line. And they go get Drake London, and it made me smart because he was the first wide receiver off the board, and he fits that big body that Arthur Smith likes that he had in A.J. Brown in Tennessee. But this is a team that is devoid of talent in the trenches, and they had an opportunity to go get Charles Cross. They had an opportunity to get Jermaine Johnson. They had an opportunity to go solidify parts of their team, and they chose to go get another weapon without an offensive line, without a running game, and without a quarterback to get on the ball. I think their rebuild process is a little bit out of order. So there's that. Let's real quick. You mentioned Malik Willis. Let's get to him. Where do you think he goes, and how much does his draft stock continue to fall?
It's a great question. We got it in the chat, and it's kind of ironic because I put, he was on my list for the losers last night. I mean, there was obviously some teams that didn't have great drafts, but I think that was the biggest surprise. And there's a bilateral way to look at this. So the reactive way to look at it is Malik Willis slips out of the first round, and that's a surprise because 2.5 quarterbacks in the first round was the number, and we only got one, and he went very late in that first round. So he was able to troll himself on social media last night. He's like, what happened to Malik Willis, with the laughing face emoji. So he's obviously taking it in stride. But what I think it paints a clear picture on is how the rest of the league feels about this year's quarterback class, which is not very high. We didn't think it was very high to begin with because they're quarterbacks. We thought maybe a team would reach for Malik Willis. Right now I'm looking at the odds on FanDuel. Plus 170 to the Seahawks is the favorite. Then the Titans at plus 340, Bucks, Falcons are around 6-1, Lions are 6-1, Saints are plus 750. I'll be honest, all 6 of those teams you can make a case for. It all depends on where it slots. But if we want to project what this means for the rest of the draft, Willis falls, Pickett falls. Well, that's not good news for Matt Corral. I was looking this morning. His draft position is 56.5 on FanDuel. I don't think he's going in the second round. So to me, that's an over bet, and it's juiced to the over for good reason. So I think Malik Willis, loser. I would, if I had to pick one of those 6 teams I just mentioned, I mean, listen, Atlanta really needs a quarterback. So I wouldn't be shocked there. All those other teams that I mentioned have at least guys competing for the starting job. Seattle being one that really probably needs a little bit of depth too. So maybe Atlanta and Seattle would be my top 2 choices there. But this draft is crazy, Mark. I mean, it really, a team could come from out of nowhere and just take this kid. And I wouldn't be confident making a bet on either of those teams because I just don't have a good idea of who really likes Malik Willis based on how far he's fallen.
I will make a bet that Matt Corral will be an Atlanta Falcon by the end of the second round. That's just
you think he's going to be taken in the second round?
Well, the Falcons have a second pick in the second round at 58 overall. So he could still be taken over 56.5 and still end up with Atlanta if he falls that far. I think the Falcons won't let him fall that far. I mean, it depends on when Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder go, honestly. I think that they may go early. And don't rule out the Buccaneers taking a quarterback. Tom Brady is likely in his last year.
On the odds board.
That's why they're first they're the first pick in the second round. Don't rule them taking a quarterback, somebody that they're comfortable with, they know is going to sit for a year and can groom for a year, and then let him play when Brady finally does hang it up again. So I wouldn't rule them out. The Titans are an interesting team. They've paid Ryan Tannehill, but they look like they're in full-on rebuild mode, man. I don't know what they're Matt Ryan's like, I got to the AFC South. Woohoo! Titans give it to everybody. I'm going to win this thing. That's at least, the Atlanta perspective. But again, I'm not sure what the Titans are doing. I think Seattle with back-to-back picks is a real possibility to draft a quarterback. And then the Falcons are there too. And they may have to jump and reach. They may have to jump up ahead of Seattle just to be sure that they get the guy that they want. So I think there's some more maneuvering to be done. But my guess is, my gut feeling is Matt Corral's an Atlanta Falcon by the end of the second round. Just my.
I mean, you've got your finger on the pulse down there, so I wouldn't put it past you. This has been this really has been the most fascinating draft that I can remember. Now I know recency bias always plays a factor in these, hot takes the day after, but just because of the lack of quarterback intrigue and the amount of trades that we saw of Pro Bowl caliber players last night, not just draft day trades, but NFL current player trades. The AJ Brown one, I was completely floored. Man, Howie Roseman just every single year figures out a way to splash and shake things up. Came into the day with 2 mid first round picks and left with AJ Brown and a star defensive tackle, and that could be 2. I think he came in like the 14th and the 16th pick. I forget exactly, somewhere in the mid first round. And he left with 2 guys that are, I think, top 10 caliber players in the NFL. So, or at least a top 10 caliber draft pick, and then a top 10 caliber wide receiver. So I think, and the odds reflected that. NFC East goes from 3-1 to plus 275. NFC, championship, gets, shaved down from 22 to 18, and their Super Bowl odds go from 45 to 35. So the market responded in kind to Philly last night, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. One more here before we switch to the NBA, and let's talk about Kenny Pickett being taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of people think that he wasn't as good as Malik Willis, whatever. I would tell you this, and I'll forecast out a bet here, but number of games started for Kenny Pickett, whatever it is, I'm taking the under. And I am telling you why, because their plan, if the Pittsburgh Steelers are anything, they are consistent. Do you remember how Ben Roethlisberger got his starting job? Tommy Maddox got crushed in a Ravens game and got knocked out, and Ben Roethlisberger took over. By the time Maddox was healthy enough to play again, the Steelers had won 4 or 5 straight, and he was off and running. The intention here is for Kenny Pickett to sit behind Mitch Trubisky for a year. I guarantee you that is the intention, and he is not expected to play. So the only thing I'm really betting on is that Mitch Trubisky won't get hurt. That, to me, feels like an okay bet because I guarantee you there is no intention to start Kenny Pickett this year at all, barring an injury.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fit made sense. Both of us in our mock drafts had Pittsburgh taking a quarterback at 20. Mm-hmm. You chose correctly. I chose incorrectly. I chose Willis. You chose Pickett. So I don't think there was any surprises that Pittsburgh went in this direction. He's been playing Pittsburgh his whole career. I mean, I saw a funny tweet last night with like the Pittsburgh and the Steelers, facilities, like the same one. He doesn't have to really move.
Yeah, they share it.
Just kind of moves his stuff. Yeah, just moves his stuff across the hall to the Steelers section. But it does make sense that Trubisky's in town and they want to give him a chance because they brought him in for a reason. And Pickett will be waiting. And, who knows? Could be a Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe situation. Just like you said with Tommy Maddox and Ben Roethlisberger, same situation. But we'll see how quickly he grasps the NFL offense, because I think that is the big reason that these quarterbacks fell. Is neither of them have this overarching ability to do one thing really well. They kind of have these holes in their game. And we'll see if Pickett, with him, it was the arm strength and the hand size and his mobility. We'll see if that becomes a factor in his career. With Willis, it's the accuracy and it's, just his overall quarterback polish. And, wherever he lands, we'll see if that becomes a factor as well. But I think overall, when you look at Kenny Pickett, I think the Steelers made the right decision. I think Willis maybe offered a little more upside, but because they want someone reliable behind Trubisky day one in case the worst happens, I think Pickett was the right call. And then you get the hometown angle too, which just kind of seals the deal.
All right, let's pivot to NBA here. As last night, 3 of the first round series all ended in 6 games. The 76ers take care of Toronto. The Suns take care of the Pelicans, and the Mavericks finish off the Utah Jazz. So we have 1 series left between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves playing Game 6 tonight in a game that the Memphis Grizzlies could close out the series with a 3-2 advantage here as Minnesota tries to force a Game 7. Real quick, reactions to the other previous 3 series, Jared, just because, again, Philadelphia was the one that really you started to sweat on a little bit.
Yeah, the Sixers played one really good quarter last night, and that's what won them the game. They just dominated the third quarter. And good for them. I think Philly deserved to win the series. The odds last night were telling you Philly was going to win that game. I thought a lot of people were surprised when Philly opened as the favorite in Game 6 on the road after losing Games 4 and 5. And I think the odds makers, listen, when something looks too good to be true, usually it is. And they got a lot of handle on Toronto last night as a home dog. Obviously, they'd won 2 games in a row. Recency bias always plays a factor in these things. And the Sixers got the job done. I think Miami's going to win that series, and the odds are saying that too. They're laying almost $2 there. The other series, New Orleans, I'll be honest, I really thought New Orleans was going to win that game. And they could have. That game was on the knife's edge pretty much throughout. And I was a little bit surprised at how strong Phoenix was able to close that game. Now, they've been good in the fourth quarter, but they've kind of been, floundering a little bit in this series where they've shown you, hey, we're vulnerable. Obviously, no Devin Booker, but he came back and played well enough at least. But he's obviously not 100%. But I think overall, I was impressed with Phoenix's finishing kick. The Jazz I knew they were going to lose that series, and credit Scal, when they were down 1-0, came on this show a week or two ago and said, hey, Dallas is going to win this series. Bet it. I think it was 4 or 5 to 1. Utah's a sellout kind of team, and they certainly sold out, dropping the series in 6. So impressive stuff for Dallas. Luke is back. I think they're a very dangerous team, but I think the West goes through Phoenix and Golden State.
All right, you mentioned him, Scal, our friend, our pal, Brian Scalabrine joins us here on Let's Bet It here on Pickswise. Just trying to beautiful face. He is back with us, Brian Scalabrine. Reaction
hey, what's up,
to the 3 series.
Hey, there we go.
Hey, look at that. He's here. Fantastic. Your reaction to the 3 series that all ended last night. Any surprises?
So let me tell you guys how this night went for me. And I would love to hear your guys' opinion. You guys know I had plus 575. So I bet 100 on Dallas to win the series. And so I'm going into that game plus 575 if they win. Then I go 100, 100, 100, all on the road team. So let's see how that played out. Then my buddy, who, just like you guys give me advice. I don't really know how to bet, but I know how to listen. Then I parlayed all 3. So this is what I got going. After the Philadelphia game, I'm like, okay, now I'm watching the Phoenix Suns, and there's a little bit of a lag between the Suns game and the Jazz game. I win that. So I got 575 on the series. I got a $600 parlay on all 3 to cover the spread. And I'm going into the last Dallas game. Should I have insured my bet, or should I just believe in what I believe, roll the dice, and just say, like, if this happens, I'm going to be up like boatloads? What would you guys have done?
Good question. I get
Jared, I'll let you go first.
Scout all the time. I always say to people, if it's life-changing money, like if it's money that's going to like pay your rent next month, like that, it's like life-changing kind of money in a sense.
Like that.
I would take a little bit off the top.
Okay.
But you don't seem like the kind of guy that would risk more than you're willing to lose because you're a smart guy. So if that's the case, just let it ride, baby, because you know what you're doing. You know your shit. Just trust your gut.
Well, I don't actually know my shit when it comes to gambling. I just know my shit when it comes to basketball.
Well, there's
a lot of people
battle sometimes.
What would you have done, Mark?
Well, Scott, look, when I was about 11 to 12 years old, I started a lawn mowing business and a landscaping business at home, just earning a little money. And ever since then, I've been a hedger. So when I have the opportunity to hedge, I will, just because, the house wins more than not, right? And especially when it's a parlay, like when you get to the point where parlays are really tough to complete. And what the hard part about the parlay is when you get the first 2 legs and you're sitting there hanging on the 3rd leg, and you're feeling all this momentum and you're feeling all this energy, like it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. That's where you end up getting let down. So it's one thing if it's like a straight hedge where I had a future ticket on a team and they're in the finals versus another team. I'm more willing to let that ride per se. But when it comes to a parlay to close out, because they're so incredibly tough to close out, I would have hedged. I'm a little bit of a, what's the word we're looking for here? Chicken in that sense. But because it's just, winning money is money, right? I'd rather, I'm always the guys like when someone offers me a payout for a bet ticket that I have, I'll take the payout. If it's enough, I'll take the payout. Why even run the risk?
Would you have hedged?
I would have maybe hedged for the amount that you bet. So at worst, you finish even on the bet, and it's basically like a risk-free parlay.
But here's the rub.
Just a little bit of a taste off the top. But
here's the thing, though.
The most of the bet ride.
I only would have hedged the amount that I put on the parlay because you still could have won the series separately in the 575 in Game 7.
Correct.
That wasn't what was really on the line because then I could have hedged again with the series and bet the Jazz the other way. So I would have hedged the hedge on a lot of hedging. I told you I had a landscaping business. So, from that standpoint, I only would have bet the amount that I put on the parlay to break even, like Jared said.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
make sense.
I'm not that complicated, so I just let it ride, even though my buddy was trying to explain to me on the live line, if Utah can get like there was a way for me to win both. I just said, what?
If you would have gotten Utah plus, as an underdog on the spread
or whatever.
They covered and then they, but Dallas still wins. Yeah,
that's
another way to play it too. Absolutely.
Anyway,
that is
last night last night was an absolute home run. And I told you I was sitting pretty with the Dallas 575, and I took that as soon as they lost game one. I'm like, they're a better team. And then I don't know how many times this has happened where 3 road teams in a game 6 have gone in to close out on the same night. Like, that's really hard to do. But Philly was way better, and they let go of the rope. I get it. The Phoenix Suns, getting Devin Booker back, I was like, come on. I like, by the way, shout out to the Pelicans. I thought they played extreme. Like, it 100%. Took a perfect night from Chris Paul to even win that game. So shout out to the Pelicans. And then, you know what I felt? I think Jazz are a bunch of phony balonies, and I was a big fan of the way Dallas plays. I think they're underrated. So I just let it ride, and it was a good night for me. So
I love it, man. So
tonight, baby. Let's go.
The question is, Brian, Scal, the question is will it be 4 road closeouts in game 6 in a row tonight with Memphis and Minnesota?
So here's where I stand with this game, right? I think Minnesota is going to come out and get off to a really good start. But the question, like the players only meeting that Minnesota Timberwolves just called, I think that's going to last for a short amount of time. Give them credit. They might come out and, with all the energy, everything. I think Memphis will walk down the lead in the 4th, and they could win this game. So I don't like this game from the standpoint of just throw it on out there that Memphis is going to cover or Minnesota is going to cover, because there's a lot of variables. Both teams, low IQ, but kind of fun because they are low IQ, by the way, when you're watching them. So I think I'm going to – you tell me. I like Minnesota in the first quarter, and I might like them in the first half, but I like Memphis for the game. What should I do?
So here's the interesting thing about the first quarter, first half, full game splits. The sports books are aware of those angles. For example, Memphis is a favorite to win the game, -1.5. Mm-hmm. But they are an underdog in the first quarter. Minnesota is -114 to win the first quarter. And
give me the points. Give me the points. What are the points?
The point, it's basically a pick 'em. There's really no points in the first quarter. But you can bet Minnesota catching a half a point, but you're going to lay -130 on it.
I'm doing that. Minnesota first quarter. So I'm taking Minnesota in the first quarter.
That makes more sense. That makes more sense because they're an underdog for the game. So you want that half a point in your back pocket.
All right, and here's another one. Steven Adams got banged with health and safety. Give me some Brandon Clark numbers, because Brandon Clark is a problem for the Timberwolves. So what do you have? Like, give me some numbers, and I can digest those on the fly, because I know what type of game
Brandon Clark
is about to have.
14.5 points, -124 to the over. Brandon Clark, 8.5 rebounds, +114 to the over.
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one.
Okay.
Brandon Clark, and then
I love it.
I love it. Give me a last one who I think is going to be big today is Ja Morant. Like superstar player, he's not going to be affected by the road. It's just the way he rolls. Give me Ja Morant.
44.5 points, rebounds, and assists.
No, give me his points.
It's a big number.
Yeah,
just points?
Yeah.
Just 27.5. -105 to the over.
27.5.
Over. There's where I stand on this whole thing.
You dropping 30?
Yeah. Ja Morant, big night. Brandon Clark, big night on the glass. Minnesota off to the early start. I think, if you guys care about what I think Memphis wins this game, but it doesn't feel it in my DNA and my soul. So that's where I stand with this game. That's how I think this game is going to unfold.
All right. I'm making some magic here, and I'm going to see if I can't make this work. Here we go. Ready? This is for you, Scal, because I love you. Ja Morant to score 25 points or more.
Okay.
That's 2 points under his total. We're buying a couple points.
Okay.
Parlayed with Brandon Clark to get 6 rebounds or more is -113.
Oh, that's it right there. I'm taking that all day long. -113. So if he gets 26 and Brandon Clark gets 7, I'm golden.
Yes.
If he gets 25 and 6, you're golden. You only need to get to 25.
That's it. You're a genius. You're a genius. All right, that's my bet. Book it. Book it. I can't wait. That thing could happen like in the third quarter. I don't even have to sweat this one out. Brandon Clark will have them rebounds in the first half. Bang. Love it.
If you want to even get more crazy, you go Brandon Clark 8 rebounds and John Morant 25 points. That's plus 157. You can be safer about it, or you can be more whatever you want to be.
I root more for wins than dollars, so just say that.
There you go.
So Brandon Clark,
speaking of
6
wins,
rebounds.
Go ahead.
Speaking of wins, we're going to look at the upcoming 3 series remaining that are already getting set to tip off. And I am just, my eyes bugged out at one line here, Scal. The Bucks are nearly plus 170 to win the series over the Celtics. What am I missing? The Bucks are the better team, like by a wide margin.
So here's what I would do if you think that, right? Like the greatest thing about the Bucks is the huge media overreaction, which I don't know if that drives the market, but it is what it is. Just sit there and wait. Wait till after game 1 when they lose to the Celtics, and then jump on your line.
Okay.
You can't argue with history. The Bucks struggle in game 1s historically. So let that game 1 unfold. The Celtics don't have enough history to figure this out. Like, I don't know if they had a bad game 1, the Celtics had a bad game 1, but that was after a week off. This is a little bit different, coming off the confidence and everything like that. Bucks are going to struggle game 1. If you really want to be a gambler, you can wait after game 2. But that number is going to really improve after game 1. And Mr. Landscaping Hedger, you're going to feel really good going into game 7. If that number jumps to like plus 275, where you have the Bucks heading into game 7. This thing is going to go 7, and the Bucks are going to lose. And you could take that for what you want, but I would jump on it after the Bucks look miserable, awful, disconnected, and everyone overreacts the other way, calling the Celtics the next champion. I do think the Celtics are going to win the series. I think they're going to win in game 7, but it's going to be a barn burner all the way till the end. But don't make that bet now. Just wait till after game 1, and I think you can really cash in.
I agree.
Heavy favorites.
And here's another way to play it. Right now, the Bucks are catching 1.5 games on the series spread. So if the series goes 7, doesn't matter who wins the series, your bet's a win. Now, if your theory is correct, the Bucks lose game 1, you're going to get maybe even plus 2.5 games, or you'll get a very nice plus money price on plus 1.5 games. So again, we've been hammering these series spreads, Scal. Like, to me, that's where you find it.
You gotta translate that into information that I understand. Like,
so the
give me like the end results.
Like so for instance, if the Bucks lose the series in 6 games, they would lose 4-2, which means you would lose plus 1.5. Yeah, you take the series spread with their games, because we did that with Dallas. Remember, we took plus 2.5.
Either way,
Dallas.
Hold on. Either way, I win. It goes to the Celtics or the Bucks. You got to pick one team.
So in game 7, if you bet plus 1.5 games on the Bucks, if it gets to a game 7, it doesn't matter who wins. Your bet's going to cash because
the series is only decided by one game.
The series is only decided by one game. So you're adding 1.5 games to the Bucks series at the end. So if they win, if they lose the series in 7,
or Boston would win 4 games to 2, you lose. If they win 5-1 or 4-1, you lose. Either team, doesn't matter who wins. Just the difference between the winner and the loser is 1 game is where you cover, 2 games is where you lose at 1.5.
Yeah,
I'm pretty confident this thing is going 7. Here's the reason why. This particular Celtic group, as much playoff experience as they have yet to win what I consider a contentious, hard-fought, tough environment road game. Don't tell me Game 3 in Brooklyn was like that. It's not. That was not it. Go back to when this team, like Jason Tatum, dunked on LeBron. They won every home game and lost every road game. Like this, there was a win in the bubble. Who cares? It doesn't even count, right? But they didn't win any games last year in Brooklyn. So this group has yet to do that. So I'm just banking that, Bucks are going to come out and they're going to lose probably 1 and 2. They'll win 3 and 4, and it'll just become a dogfight down the stretch. So I'm pretty confident this thing's going 7. So I should take that Bucks plus 1.5 is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
even without
I
Chris
agree
Middleton?
with you. Yeah.
Like their physicality across the board. It moved Giannis to the 3. It's like, I don't know. Like I can only explain it this way. If I'm going against a guy that's more physically gifted, I play one-on-one against NFL football players, right? Like that's gonna wear on me. If we played 7 games in a row, by game 6, I can't even shoot anymore. I can't get to my spots. His body is just like wearing on me. I'm a better player. I got more skill. I know the game more. Like it just makes it more difficult for me to score. So physicality over finesse. It's just like, these MMA fighters or boxers, they have a game plan, then they get popped and the game plan goes out the window. Your finesse goes out the window. So I'm not saying the Celtics, I think the Celtics are going to win game 7, but I just think like the physicality is just going to wear them down. There's going to be no points in the paint at the rim for the Celtics. They got Bobby Portis, Lopez, or Giannis defending that. Those guys are elite at doing that. So then you're talking like, okay, are you going to live in the mid-range? It's going to be tough. You'll win games, no question, living in the mid-range, but it just makes it very difficult, even without Chris Middleton. So this is going to be, I think it's going to be a bloodbath, but I do think the Celtics win game 1 because the Bucks, like I said, historically suck in game 1.
All right, Scal,
I think the odds
Right,
are
Jared.
tilting that because to me, giving you like the odds makers know that too. They're giving you the Bucks at this very high plus money price because they know that if it does turn out that way, they're gonna be able to tilt it not as much in game 2. But we'll get to that in game 2. I hope you're right because then we can get the Bucks at a really good series spread price. I don't know if I'm going to bet this pre-series. If I do, I'll let you know. But I'm also curious your thoughts on Sixers Heat because this series spread's actually pretty close too. The Sixers are the underdog in the series, and they're the underdog on the spread, obviously too. But is Philly ready for this smoke? Because the Toronto series was tough, but Toronto was undermanned. Miami is not undermanned. They are deep, talented, and physical, and they're ready for the postseason with their coaching staff and how they carry themselves. Is Philly live in this series?
So let me just ask you this question because I don't actually have an answer for you yet. Is Embiid, it's Embiid versus Bam Adebayo, right? And Bam's like 6'9", 230, by the way. Like I'm 6'9", 260. I shouldn't be 260, but hey, man, you get older, you start eating too much, whatever. But he's not that big. Embiid is 280, 290. If Embiid has a dominating mindset, like that should be a problem for Miami. Then you play off of that and everything like that. Okay. The second part of that, James Harden is awful in Miami for reasons outside of basketball. Will he be locked in? He's got a lot of money at stake. He can party in Miami after. So will he be locked in? And the last one is Eric Spoelstra is the greatest playoff coach we see out there right now. Like I think of all the coaches out there, he's the one that's most innovative. And it's innovative in a good way. Like, it's not just, throwing stuff against the wall and see if it sticks. Like, Eric Spoelstra is, like, really calculated in the way that he uses things and dropping teams back into different defenses and stuff like that. So, right now, I like Miami, but it all comes down to Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid has, like, the Shaquille O'Neal mindset back in early 2000s, which was like, I don't care what you do, I'm going to dominate because I'm physically more gifted than anybody you have out there, Philadelphia could win this series. Outside of that, the Miami Heat are better at all other things out there, from every guard position, from culture to passing to movement to defense to innovation coaching-wise. But Embiid is the X factor in this. So it's just a matter of what you feel. I'm curious if Embiid will dominate Bam Adebayo, or will he settle and shoot jumpers, take him on the perimeter, headsy pull-ups, stuff like that? But if he dominates him like we saw Embiid dominate Game 6, then it's going to be a really close series. If not, I think Miami wins this thing in 6 games. They're going to take care of business.
All right, Jared, any props for Scal that you like here tonight in this Memphis-Minnesota game?
Yeah, so I was looking at Desmond Bane. and we talked
And you
about him
love him. You
last
talk
time,
about him
Scal.
every time I come
He's
on
been
air.
balling, huh?
You,
Desmond
okay.
Bain's been balling. He's gone
He has
over
been.
his prop of 21.5 points in his last 3 games in this series. He had the 34 piece in game 4, 25 in the last game. I agree. I'm betting John Morant, that same game parlay we talked about, and we'll wink we'll talk about it a little later during plays of the day. But Desmond Bain's really the only other guy that I would look to tonight. What are your thoughts on him?
Last time you asked me that question, did I take the under or over?
No, we both took the over. We both took
I
the
think
over.
you convinced me to take the over. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
So, I'm expecting a big night from Ja. So obviously you can only score so many points. So maybe a little lesser night from Desmond Bain. But, I don't feel this one either way. Like, it's not like I'm sitting here looking at it like, oh, man, I'm feeling Desmond Bain to have a bad game. I don't feel like that at all. I think he could because you're right. He takes the right shots. But if Dylan Brooks gets it going, he's going to shoot him no matter he has it going or he doesn't have it going. So I wouldn't jump all over this personally, but you can probably nail this one too, just like you nailed the last time you mentioned Desmond Bain.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling Bain tonight either, and here's why. When we talked about it the other day, it was 20.5. They moved the number up a point, and the handicap doesn't point me in the direction that they should be bumping that number up. Because I agree with you, this is a Ja Morant closeout game. So if they kept it at 20.5, I would consider it. But the fact that they moved the number up, that would be enough for me to just say, okay, we'll just, give the sports books their due and we'll move on to the next.
Scal, enjoy the game tonight and the games this weekend. Obviously, we'll have you back here real soon. Appreciate the time, brother.
Can't wait. Thanks. See you guys. And thanks for the bets.
Great job, Scal.
Scal. All right, let's pivot here to Better Up, our Major League Baseball. Into our NRFIs and YRFIs, YRFIs went 7-6 yesterday, 15-3 over the last 2 days. On the season, though, NRFIs a slight advantage, 144 to 142. That's just 50.3%. So both sides down heavy units as you trade blows back and forth. But let's start with our NRFIs and YRFIs for the day. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've been kind of conservative with these of late because the more I track them, the more and we talked about this yesterday. When you really dive into something like this, you don't realize how hard it is to make money in gambling, until you really, really start tracking bets every single day. And these specific bets, they really have a coin flip nature to them. And it's very early. It's only, we're 2,430 games of a season. We're only 286 in. So 10% or so, barely. Let's not go nuts with crowning any achievements or making any absurd claims over what we're going to see for the rest of the season. But it does seem to me in general that these are coin flip bets. So I try to stay on the plus side when I can, on the YRFI side at least. And the one that stood out to me today, there was one that did stand out today. It was the Angels and the White Sox. I saw this YRFI at plus 129 on DraftKings. I think it's come down a bit to plus 120, but I still would absolutely play it there. These are two pretty decent lineups. White Sox underperforming to expectations. In fact, I was looking at their output numbers so far this year, and I was actually surprised they were bottom 5 in some categories because of how good their offense is. You wouldn't expect that. So maybe they're due for some positive regression. The Angels have been good as well. The pitching matchup here, Noah Syndergaard against Lucas Giolito. Giolito's been pretty good with the NRFIs. He has not allowed a run in the first inning yet this season, but his NRFI rate last year was 73%, which is kind of the average. The average team scores in 29% of innings. So our team scores a run on average 29% of the time in the first inning at least. So the fact that he was 73%, that's kind of right on the average of where Major League Baseball is. So that surprised me a little bit because Giolito's a really good pitcher. Noah Syndergaard has not been great with the Angels so far. He gave up 2 runs to the Orioles in the first inning in his last start. And the Orioles are like the worst first inning scoring team in the league. So I'll take a crack on this plus money YRFI, Angels, White Sox. I got it at plus 129.
All right, real quick for me, a NRFI and a YRFI. The NRFI, San Diego and Pittsburgh, juiced more than I would actually really want to play at -128, but you get Yu Darvish going. Pittsburgh does not score runs in the first inning. Their offense is terrible. San Diego strikes out a lot. And so this is a game here that I would be cautious of, but it just caught my eye. And when I get past that 125 price, Jared, I really got to find a good reason, but I just wanted to throw it out there for people. It's more money than I would want to lay for a NRFI or a YRFI. Once you get past the 115, 120 range, I'm very, very skittish, just because, as you said, it's so hard to make money off these things over the long haul. The YRFI, the Yankees and Kansas City. The Yankees bats are on fire as of late. Kansas City is bad. They're starting Chris Bubic. He's given up a run in each of his first 3 starts. Yankees offense going really, really well these days, even though they haven't been great at scoring runs in the first inning so far this year. But at -115, I would back it. So that's my NRFI or my YRFI. I do have one more NRFI as my play of the day we'll get to here in a moment. But the rest of your MLB plays, Jared.
Yeah, I was looking at Urquidy. I know he's on your card too. That's a guy that I was also looking to play on today. But I left off that pitcher and I went with the other pitcher in this game, which is Yusei Kikuchi to the under 4.5 at -116. Projected for 3.8. He stayed under 4.5 in all 3 starts this year. Just a 6.75 K per 9, which is his lowest since his rookie year back in 2019. So Kikuchi, downtrending, I guess, and 6'11" FIP, 353 WOBA, and just a 15% K rate in his career against the current Astros lineup. And this is an Astros lineup that just faced Kikuchi last week. 3 2/3 innings, 5 walks, and just 4 strikeouts. So if he stayed under last week, I'm confident he'll stay under this mark again in this start. And Houston again really they're really strong with their K rate against lefties. Just a 21% K rate against lefties this year. That's the 3rd lowest in Major League Baseball. Last year they had the lowest K rate in Major League Baseball against lefties at 20%. So this is an Astros lineup that was underperforming the first few weeks. They've been playing better of late. They just faced Kikuchi, and I just don't view him as a high strikeout guy. So under 4.5 there at -116. I'm also going to play an over, which I haven't had a lot of success with K props to the over this year, but I really like Elieser Hernandez. He's a plus guy for me in terms of K props if his number is at 4.5, which it is today. He's projected for 5. He's gone over this in 2 of his 3 starts this year. The one caveat here, he's facing a Mariners lineup that has a absurdly low K rate against righties, under 20%, but they're in a new ballpark. There is an interleague game in Miami, so you would expect not a lot of Seattle hitters have any experience with the backdrop or the batter's eye there down there at Marlins Park. I don't know if it's called Marlins Park anymore. Who knows what it's called? And they've also only seen Hernandez. They only have 9 current plate appearances. One guy has 5 of them against Hernandez. So they haven't seen Hernandez at all. They're in a new ballpark, and I like Elieser's stuff. So I'll take a crack over 4.5. I got this at basically even odds, -104 over at FanDuel. So I feel pretty good about that price. So Kikuchi under 4.5, Hernandez over 4.5. Those are the K props for me today.
All right, 2 other Major League Baseball plays for me. Minnesota, Tampa Bay under 7.5 runs, and this is purely a price play for me at -104. Given the starters, Dylan Bundy has been fantastic as of late as he goes from Minnesota. I get Corey Kluber going for Tampa Bay, 2 good pitchers who are above average strikeout guys. And if they can get through the early innings and get through the first 5, keeping this thing under 2 or 3, I'll feel really confident about the bullpens on the back end. But again, at a -104 price, I don't mind paying for the under, even though that total is very, very low. And then you mentioned Jose Urquidy. This is the 3rd start in a row. I'm going to play the under on Jose Urquidy. And they keep setting this number at 3.5. I don't know why they haven't put it at 3, but he has not gone more than 3 strikeouts in any of his starts. He's up against the Toronto Blue Jays, who score nearly a 1.5 more at home than they do on the road. I don't think Urquidy even lasts 5 innings in this game, which is not long enough for him to get 4 strikeouts because he's that low of a K-rate pitcher. And it's still plus money, Jared, which is shocking to me at this point that the under is still plus money. So I'm going to ride it again for the 3rd straight start, taking the under on Jose Urquidy. Almost wanted to make it my play of the day, but there's just too much variance in K props for me to back it sort of as a play of the day, but it's something that I certainly had my eye on and be willing to wager on otherwise. All right, let's turn it over now to our plays of the day. But first, on the Pickswise website, our 3-star plays. By the way, somebody you know had a 3-star play right last night. That'd be this guy. As we hit the over in the Suns-Pelicans game, on the website. I'm now 4 out of my last 5 on correct on my 3-star plays. But
You had a
Jared, are
great
you
year in
up on the
NBA.
website? I
You
actually,
deserve
I
a
mean, it's been
lot of credit with NBA. You really do.
it's
And
gone well.
I look at these 3 stars every day because we do them for the show, but also I like to bet them too. And Mark, you've done honestly, you've done a really good job with NBA bets this year. I don't even need to do any NBA capping. I got you, I got Scal. I just get them fed to me, spoon fed to me on a silver spoon every day. We do have we've got a few today. Actually, this one kind of backs up your Urquidy prop because wise guy Matt Weisenfeld, who did an unbelievable job last year with his 3-star baseball plays, he's got the Blue Jays on the money line today. Tyler Mortimer also has a play on the Caps Rangers, and Mark Lammy has a prop in the Penguins Blue Jackets game. So a lot of options today. You got baseball, you got a hockey total, you got a hockey prop for you, and we just gave out some NBA plays as well. So lots of options today on the Pickswise site, and a bunch of parlays. I see a mega parlay in baseball. I see an NHL parlay, and then I see another MLB parlay. So a few parlays, and we got 3 stars on the site today. So take your pick.
All right, Jared. Well, let's see if you can stay hot as we get to our plays of the day. You teed up there, sir.
I'll be honest. I wait for these moments every time we have Scal on, because his eyes light up like, a kid getting the Christmas gift that, he really wanted for, he's like, oh, whoa. And when his eyes were lighting up when I was going through those Morant and Brandon Clark same game parlay numbers, to me, that made it obvious. I'll be honest. If I had to pick one of my baseball plays today for POD, I would go Kikuchi to the under. I think that's my favorite of the 3 that I gave. But for the official play of the day for this show, I will roll with my guy Scal, who has been awesome with giving us this NBA analysis this year. He thinks John Morant is going to close this game out for the Grizzlies, so we'll take his 25-plus points prop, and we will parlay it with Brandon Clark 6+ rebounds. This is priced at -113 at FanDuel, same game parlay. These are the alt markets, so we're kind of buying points and we're buying rebounds. The handicap of Brandon Clark makes a ton of sense. He's given this T-Wolves interior defense a ton of problems with his rebounding numbers. And John Morant, he was unbelievable to close out that game the other night in Memphis. And I agree with Scal's analysis. He will continue to put the hammer down tonight. Maybe Memphis doesn't win the game, but I think John Morant, especially because this point total is very high, it's in the 230s, it may be right around 230. I would certainly look to overs with points props tonight. And if you think Ja's the guy, which we certainly do, I think this is a very solid same game parlay. So we'll have some fun with an SGP tonight for POD. SGP POD. Grizzlies. Let's roll, baby.
All right, for my play of the day, I'm going to head to the Diamond and pick a NRFI that I found at plus money, and I believe it to be an inflated line because of where the game is played. That's at Coors Field in Colorado. Reds versus Rockies. I'm getting the Cincinnati Reds, who are 4th to last in first inning runs scored this year. They just don't have a lineup to score a ton of runs. But they are starting Hunter Green, and that's really where this handicap is. The young flamethrower, the strikeout pitcher, going into Coors Field should have a slight advantage considering nobody in that Rockies lineup has ever seen him before. He's been able to dominate teams like the Dodgers. I'm getting plus 124 because this game is at Coors Field and runs are easily scored. All I got to do is get Hunter Green to get me through the first inning in this one. I don't need him to win, but when you get that kind of plus price on a NRFI, I'm going to jump all over it. Give me no runs in the first inning between the Reds and the Rockies as my play of the day.
I'm actually tracking the Coors Field NRFIs separately because I have a theory that the NRFI at Coors Field will be profitable at the end of the year. That's my theory.
Yeah.
And I'm tracking them separately because of that theory. I agree with you on Hunter Green. I love his overs. I wouldn't play his strikeout prop today because you just don't know how he's going to handle Coors Field. But I think he will be a guy that's going to be a plus pitcher in this league. And yeah, plus money NRFIs at Coors Field. I think they're going to be profitable this year. I mean, we'll find out in 6 months. But
you get plus 105 in certain places, plus 108, even plus 110. I'm getting almost plus 125. I'm not walking away from it. It's just purely a value play on the price for me. So, listen, it's been a great run for you at the NFL Draft. Continue to enjoy Vegas. We will be back tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. Eastern. Like our illustrious host, Lord Jabbar, says, let's get it, let's bet it. I'll say, go get it, go bet it. Enjoy the day.